Well, I would say welcome back, but I don't know if this is much of a welcome. This article was, of course, explaining the Itaewon tragedy, where over 150 people lost their lives either in the event or in the days or even weeks following. The article does detail that at the beginning of the event, family members were quite panicked, of course. When they first learned about it, they obviously thought of their children or people in the area and wanted to contact them. The family members who couldn't get in contact with their loved ones decided to go to the hospitals, but because of the size of the tragedy, some of the hospitals would have to move some victims to another area or another hospital. And so families were left frantically searching hospital to hospital. As is natural with any tragedy, people want to find out what went wrong. And so blame can ensue from that. Right now, there are people who are blaming government. There are people who are blaming, I believe there was an illegal building operation that narrowed the alleyway a little bit. People could also be blaming themselves. And unfortunately, that could have a very high toll on their own mental health. But as for the people who do blame the government, they say that it was ineffective in preventing this tragedy when it could have. The government said that because this was not an organized event, that there was no real oversight happening. And possibly, I hope, in the future, there might be more oversight, but as of now, that was the explanation given for the Itaewon tragedy. Have you been ever, in a dangerous situation where you might have been hurt?
Yes, I've been in a couple. Very different to the situation described that we've just been talking about. I was thrown down a long flight of stairs. That was pretty dangerous. I nearly broke my neck. I had to be rushed to hospital. I had surgery to correct the smashed bones in my arm. But I survived. It was pretty terrifying at the time, as I'm sure you can imagine. That was definitely the most dangerous. That was the brush with death, I would count, in my life.
Yes, you're still here and you're going strong. And apparently the bones healed quite nicely.
It has, yes.
You can still give a good high five.
Great surgeons, yes.
Yeah, wow, that was an intense story. I was going to follow that up with one of my own, but anything I say is going to be trivial. As for me, there's been a few, but the one that I was going to say that was on the, I guess, funnier side, it's not super funny at all. It's just compared to that.
Please do lighten the tone, John. I'm begging you.
I was talking to my mom recently about us being raised in the backwoods of Montana, which is basically in the mountains. We had 7 people surrounding us in a very large region, and among the whole county there was about 1,000 people.
Wow!
So 300 in the nearest town.
Brutal.
So that's the backdrop for this. In that way, our mom would, in the morning, make us breakfast, we would eat, and then she would say, have fun, and we would go out pretty much all day into the woods. Now she said, I don't know why I let you do that, because as we found out quite harshly, there are bears in the woods, mountain lions, poisonous snakes, but those are easy to avoid. And I bet there's cougars, which I don't think would go after small children unless they are really hungry, but they could have. And we experienced this firsthand when a bear came down and attacked our livestock and killed a few of them. And we were in those mountains for hours every day, small children walking around as tasty little snacks for the bears. And you know what? After the bear attack, you know what we did?
You went straight back on the
mountain. And my mom was just
fear.
My mom was just like, okay, have fun, be back by dinner. And we're like, cool. Right after the bear attack. So yeah, I guess we imagined the bear was dead, so it didn't, it wouldn't affect us anymore. But anyways, that was my brush with possible death. Now, you did say that you were rushed to the hospital, which I hope was in a very timely manner. Do you think that police or firefighters are pretty quick in the UK when it comes to emergency response?
They were in my case, yeah. And again, it's a very different situation. It's just one emergency injury. It was in the middle of the night, so maybe the roads were a bit clearer than they would have been if it happened in the daytime or at rush hour. So yeah, they were pretty quick.
Good.
Although upon arriving at the hospital, I had to wait in the emergency room for a very long time to receive my painkillers and attention because there was a massive queue of people waiting.
I would assume the triage would make you a bit high on the list, unless everyone was having a heart attack.
Well, again, it may have just seemed like a really long time because I was in an enormous amount of pain. I couldn't
30 seconds, but...
It could have been.
It
I don't
wasn't,
actually
I'm
know
sure,
how long
but-
it took, but it felt like forever.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine because I broke my leg once and it felt, we didn't go that night to the hospital and the night passed so slowly. I was 4 years old, so even worse. And I was just up all night with pain and it just passed so slowly. So I can imagine the time is just, it goes slowly when you're in pain. Yeah. I think in America they respond, I think it's case by case. Oh, going back to some inequality articles, there might be some inequality with response times depending on the neighborhood you live in. In my neighborhood, the response seemed pretty quick, especially for police, but also firefighters. Well, yeah, I think it was top notch where I lived. And let's go ahead and get a good response to that vocabulary. Study it, know it, and we'll see you for hopefully a much happier article in the next one. Bye.
Utter.
Utter.
Macabre.
Macabre.
Ensue.
Ensue.
Negligence.
Negligence.
Mar.
Mar.